Hi, I'm Paul Garvey, and this is a tutorial on how to use CURT. CURT stands for Communication Unit Resource Tracker. It is a macro-enabled Excel spreadsheet tool that is used within primarily wildfire incidents, but increasingly all hazards incidents as well, to track three primary things: equipment, staff, and spectrum. And it's a nice, really convenient way to consolidate everything you have to track on an incident within the communication unit. And it also has the advantage of being a very nice transition tool, in that when you transition from one team to another, you can take CURT, all the contents of it, hand it to that incoming comm unit leader, and it makes that transition so much easier. So when you first pull CURT up, you're greeted with a welcome window that indicates the version of CURT, and it's a reminder that it works in macros. And there's also a little reminder here too about the help button. So if you aren't seeing this welcome screen, it indicates that you don't have macros enabled. To enable macros, depending upon your Excel version that you're using, there's a number of different paths to get there. What I'd recommend at this point is just Google it based on your version. It's very simple to do. It'll walk you through how to enable macros. Okay, so let's assume you have macros enabled. We're at this point with the welcome screen, and you click through, and the first thing CURT is going to ask you is, what's the incident name? And in this case, we're going to call this the hot fire. And now that populates up here in your incident name. This is the main equipment checkout page. You see the various tabs down at the bottom. There's equipment checkout, staff roster, demob schedule, staff hours, contact inventory. 217, there's your 205s, phone list, the 214 waybill, and so on. Okay, so each one of these tabs serves a certain purpose, and a lot of these tabs are all interrelated. Let's go up here to the Help tab. When you click the Help tab, the first thing it's going to ask you is, do you want to check for any updates to the CURT releases itself? If the answer is yes, let's go ahead and do that. And the first thing you're going to need, though, is internet access. If you don't have internet access, this isn't going to work. When you click yes, it takes you to Dropbox, and there is the latest version of CURT. And then over here you can download, identify where you want to download it to, and there you go. Okay, so this is your Help tab. Here's the version release number. This is my contact information. Down here is the worksheet help section itself. So for each one of the tabs on CURT, here's a tab for help. And you just scroll down and it gives you a brief overview of some tips and tricks on how to use each one of these tabs. It also provides some hints on what it's doing and what it's expecting from the user in terms of information. Down here is just a general help tab, general user notes, just about overall some best practices, how to use this thing. Here's a tip right off the top. Best practice A, each day you save CURT under a new file name using a new date. Mac support, there's some information on folks that are trying to use CURT on Macs. As I mentioned, this is a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, and some folks are having some pretty good success using it on Macs, but it's not all that intuitive, so there's some tips there. This explains the auto-archiving feature, and then how to print to PDF. Okay. You also have the option of turning off CURT's welcome message. So here you can also hide Excel's command ribbon, and if you click that, you'll see how it gives you just a lot more real estate on the page by hiding that main ribbon. Now, some of you might like this because it really simplifies the page. Others may not like that because there are a lot of tricks that you can do with Excel. So to turn it back on, just go back into the help file, click that off, and there's your ribbon again. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that the very first thing you want to do when you open CURT, especially for the first time on an incident, is name it by that incident and by that date. So you just go to File, do a Save As. Here it asks you what you want to name it and where you want to store it. Okay, so back to equipment checkout. We want to go ahead and add our first kit. So you click Add Equipment. We're going to add a radio kit. This is going to be a Command King kit. And this is going to be a 4381. You can add the FCK if you want, but that's not necessary. And let's say this is going to be kit number 101. How many radios in it? There are 16. Click OK, and now this automatically populates 16 radios under that kit number. And now we're ready to start populating. And now the question is, when they checked out that radio, was there a radio case checked out with them, a speaker mic, and or a mag mount? Now, if they didn't check any of this stuff out, then don't bother to enter it. If you put a no, it'll just ignore it anyway. If you put a yes, it'll stay. So again, only highlight the exception, and the exception would be that they did check something out. The checkout date, let's say they checked that out on the 20th. Now, as soon as you enter that checkout date, you'll see that it grays out that cell. So that tells you it is not available for release. Should Jane come back in and return it, then it removes that shade of gray, and now it tells you that radio is available, should be back in the kit. Let's add another piece of equipment. In this case, let's say somebody had their own radio, but they wanted a mag mount. You go up here and select mag mount. And this is how you can track what kit it came from. So let's say it came from 4381, kit number 101. Enter the customer's last name. And there, now, there's a mag mount that's been checked out. It came out of kit number 101. There should be 4 of those mag mounts in there initially. Now we should just see 3. It's checked out to Smith. So it automatically populates their last name. It puts a yes in the fact that it's a mag mount just to highlight that. And you can enter all of their other contact information. Okay? There's a remark section over here to the right if you want to add any particular remarks about it. Up here are the sort buttons. The sort buttons are pretty handy, so there you can sort by first name, by last name, and of course you can sort by kit number, and miscellaneous, and so on. The third area on the add equipment piece is under your miscellaneous cell phones, air cards, sat phones. Enter the device number, the phone number itself. And then just like everything else, just go ahead and add the contact information like you normally would, and you're all set to go. Let's say you want to save this thing as a PDF. Well, before we go there, we can print it. You hit the print button, and it automatically formats the page for you. Now, this is really important. Let me close this out and go back to this again. A lot of folks, to print this, will go up here to File and go down to Print. Don't do that, because if you do that, it's going to ignore all the automatic formatting that's going on here, and you can end up printing dozens of pages worth of blank paper. So always use these prompt buttons here. If you want to print the remarks section, click that flag. When you go to print, you'll see remarks is here now as well. That gives you all the information on one page, but you see the drawback is that now it really reduces the size of the font, and that may be a bit of an eye test. So I default to keeping the remarks column off of there. Here's another useful feature here as well for consolidating the printing reports. So earlier, Jane had returned that radio. I'm going to remove that date, and so now it appears that radio is still checked out. And click this tab that says Print Only Checked Out Radios. Now what this is going to do is that when you check that tab and you hit print, now it's only going to print just the radios that are checked out. It keeps all the blanks, all the availables off the page. Select this option, and it really reduces the amount of paperwork you have to shuffle through as folks are returning equipment back. Now, to delete equipment, it's really easy. Go up here to the Delete Equipment, and this is new in the 2018 edition of CURT. Now you can delete multiple items simultaneously. In this particular case, let's say that Bob Smith has returned the mag mount. Just go down and highlight that mag mount. Hit Delete Miscellaneous Equipment. It's going to just confirm that that's what you want to do, because it's going to erase everything. Go ahead and do that, and there it's done. So the next tab we're going to take a look at here is the staff roster. Here in this case, we have Jane Phillips, who's arrived as a rado. Her first workday we're going to enter as the 27th. How many days is she available? It's available for 14. Here it shows you what her last workday is going to be, and hence what the planned demob date would be. Method of transportation, this is just kind of a note. It says she's going to need air for return. Enter the jet city. Are they available for reassignment? Yes or no? And what other qualifications do they have? And it's really handy if you're putting them out for reassignment. They may also have some opportunity to work on some task books there at the incident during some downtimes within the Comm unit. So now with, we're going to add one more in here. And here we've added Mr. Harris as COMM. Now, going over to the demob schedule, the demob schedule then takes that information that you just keyed in and gives you a visual on how long they have remaining in their deployment. As every day ticks by, you'll see here's today's date, Sunday the 29th, and tomorrow this becomes Monday the 30th, and the next day, Tuesday the 1st. So everything over here to the right is going to start decrementing back here to the left. So this is a real nice visual, a nice way to kind of count down how you need to start thinking about transitioning and seeking backfill. So let's actually make her arrival date the 19th. Now you see this 5/2/18 has turned red. That means you just got a couple of days before Jane's time runs out, and hopefully you've got a backfill headed her way if needed. Okay, so you can see how Jane has decremented off there to the left. On the far right, it has the days remaining. Now off to the staff hours, this one is day specific. So with each shift, what hours are these folks going to work? And this is derived from the staff roster. The COMMs, the rados, INCM, comm techs, they're all color coded. Let's go ahead and click the schedule. We're going to start with Tim, and Tim's shift is going to be 16. They're going to start work at, say, 05:30. And how many 30-minute breaks are they going to need to log? And we'll go ahead and enter 1 in this case. And there we have Tim's shift. It's yellow under 05:30 because it's on the half-hour increment. And Tim's going to start at 05:30. It's going to end at 2200. Schedule Jane. Jane's going to work 16. She's going to start at 04 and take 1 break. So there's your shift. Here's the shift transition calculator. When we have folks going from days to nights and nights back to days, it's the one thing that causes more brain damage than anything. So this is a really easy way to figure out how that transition balance has got to work to be compliant with work-rest ratio. So let's say Jane just left her home unit this morning, and what this is trying to get a feel for in terms of work-rest is she's going to shift over to nights. How many hours has she already worked today? And that's going to start the formula for what the work-rest is. She started today at 0800. That's when she left her home unit to start travel to the fire. It took her 6 hours to get here, another hour to get checked in, there were 7 hours there. She didn't take any breaks along the way. So the calculate button clicked, Jane can start the shift at 1830 hours. That is taking into account the work rest requirements for her already having worked 7 hours. Now let's take a look at the CommTech inventory. You notice that with all of these tabs, the help button is up here as well. Takes you to the same help page, so it's a really quick reference as to how to navigate through each one of these tabs. So earlier back in the equipment checkout, we added a Command King kit. Well, that kit, it automatically loads it onto the CommTech inventory, so come demob, the techs can manage that as a demobbable asset. Because this is a radio kit, it'll have an S number to it. Let's say it's going to be S number 1. So beyond this, the only other thing that's relevant to this kit is the demode date. So let's say we have a command repeater, and this is going to be a 4312-202, and this has an S3. Location and the coordinates are up on Blue Hill, and here you can enter the lat long. And a little tech tip for you here: if you hit Alt Enter, it'll do a carriage return line feed for you, so you can split out your lat long. This was installed yesterday, 4/28. Obviously, I haven't demoed it yet. Is it a drive to? Do we have to fly to it? Is it single stack, double stacked? Is it solar? So put any of those comments there. It's for good reference. And when was the last time the batteries were changed, or did you install solar? Well, we just installed it yesterday, so technically the batteries were last changed on 4/28. They're fresh batteries as of that time. And what's going to be the maintenance interval on this? Let's say 5 days. So here the batteries should be swapped out per that 5-day interval on May 3rd. You see over here in the right-hand side, under Wednesday the 2nd, it highlights yellow. That's a little heads up for you that that repeater is coming up for service here in several days. You can expand that window, the maintenance schedule window, if you just want a broader view. Take it way out there. And here you can see that as of Thursday the 3rd, that's your 5th date. That's a red date. So you better be planning on your maintenance for that repeater in that day. Here's another option too. This is on the equipment checkout as well. You could do a save to PDF. This is really nice if you just want to email any of these reports, sending them back to CDO, or just to save it as PDF to print the whole thing. So you click Save to PDF, and just like a normal file save, asks you where you want to save it, what do you want to name it, and so on. Now, let's take a look at the dashboard. This dashboard feature is, as I mentioned earlier, it's a collection of all the equipment and the status of that equipment that you have on your incident. Over here on the left-hand side, here's your equipment checkout view, and then there's the CommTech inventory view. Equipment checkout, it tells us what kind of kits do we have deployed. We have a command kit. There's just one of them. There's 16 radios in it. One of them checked out. We have 15 available. Under the radio kit specifics, this is for each kit now. For every kit you have, so this is kit types, and this is each specific kit. Here within this particular kit, I've got 16, one checked out, 15 available. This is really handy when you start getting a lot of kits, the incident has really settled out, and you're starting kind of on the tail end of, or on the beginning end of a demo cycle. Take a look at all these kits and which ones do you have just one or two radios out of them. Maybe you could do some swapping and consolidation and get that equipment back to Boise. This is a really nice way to just visualize what's in those kits and how many are pretty close to being full. Up here in the CommTech inventory view, there's a summary of the maintenance schedule itself, and this is the demo status. This keeps a running tally of everything that you had on the incident, and it keeps it on there even after it's demoed. So that's a really good way to track everything that's been affiliated with the incident, particularly if you're going to use CURT to transition from one team to another. Now let's take a look at the 217. The 217's purpose is to keep track of every frequency and every talk group that is affiliated with the incident. This goes way beyond what's on the 205. So let's say we want to add a TAC. Under the function, select TAC. In this case, it's going to come out of NIFC. We're going to use freq 168.100. And now here's an important column over here in this right-hand side, show for the 205 build. What this is asking you is, when you go to populate the 205, do you want this frequency listed as one of your options? So go ahead and put yes there. Okay, same sorting features as before. You can sort by any number of these different components. And then there's your demo box as well for when you formally release that back to the owner. Okay, so moving on to the 205. Pretty standard 205 format. You can fill in whatever you want here on this 205 as usual, or here's an easier method, a list of what has been identified as being available to add to the 205 from the 217. So let's say we're going to use, so here's our TAC, and the 1681, highlight that. What channel do you want to put that in? Well, let's put it in channel 1. Click OK. There it is. Add your channel name, add the assignment of that, put any remarks in you need. Provided you have the 217 filled in correctly, this is a really easy way to populate your 205. Now the phone list. Pretty simple. Enter the unit of the section that this contact pertains to. There's their name. This is a landline, this is a cell phone, this is a fax. And now this field, you flag this if you want to keep the number private. And this is an application where somebody is okay to hand their cell phone out for internal use within an incident, but they don't want it released into an external document. So enter their cell number. If you put an X there, put anything in there, it's going to turn it into an X, and then when you go to print their contact info, that number itself will appear blank. Okay, on to the 214. Pretty standard format. This thing does a lot of auto-populating itself. The first thing you want to do is populate the personnel roster. So we're going to go ahead and add a staff member. This pulls the information from the staff roster that you added earlier. So Jane Phillips is at the incident, as is Tim Harris. Add them. So you notice that we added Jane first and Tim second. It auto-sorted based on the position. And then to add a major incident, you can add it in here manually if you'd like, but if you use the add a major event, it's going to automatically insert the lines. So just go ahead and key it in. There it goes. It'll populate your time. If you forget to add one, don't worry about the order that you do this, because CURT will take care of it for you. Excuse me. You notice that there now the 0600 precedes the 0800 event. Okay, put it in a prepared by, hit print or save to PDF, and off you go. Now in the waybill, as mentioned earlier, this is the form we use to return items, most likely back to Boise. So this pre-populates the incident name. Go ahead and add your number, any management code, contact information, so on and so forth. Put your own address in here as to where this is coming from, and then get ready to add some equipment. So when you click the Add Equipment button, this draws the information from the contact inventory. So we had a Command King radio kit, and we had a command repeater. Notice the S numbers are here as well. These are very critical when it comes time to demobbing this. So we're going to demob our Command King kit, and so that's the item. Now go down here to this piece and highlight the item description itself. So here's a command radio kit, 4381. The demo weight's going to be 70 pounds. Here are the dimensions. Click OK. And scroll down here and take a look at this, and there it is automatically added to the waybill. Okay, do the same thing for any of the equipment that's in the compact inventory that you want to demob. The key is it has to be here in the compact inventory for you to be able to see it to add it to the waybill. And also don't forget about your S numbers. You need the S numbers here keyed in on the compact inventory. So notice that we had a demob date of 429 here for the command radio kit, and now it has grayed out those cells to indicate that has been returned or plans to be. Let's go back over to our dashboard. You can use the dashboard button here, or you can just drop over to the tab down below. And now, here we indicate over here on the right-hand side that now we have a demob date assigned to that Command King kit. So far on that incident, we had two pieces of accountable, trackable equipment. One was the Command King radio kit. We have demobbed that as the 29th. The other repeater is still there. Now let's talk about the import feature of CURT. The most common use for the import is when you're at an incident and let's say maybe you're getting ready to transition and it's time to consolidate information. It may be at one case where you had the INCM and the radios are doing all the equipment checkout. If the comm techs are using a different copy of CURT on a different laptop just to track the CommTech inventory. So now what you can do is use the import function to consolidate that information. And I'm going to use an example here of a file I had last year just to kind of demonstrate how this is going to work. So let's say I want to go ahead and import the equipment checkout from a previous version of CURT. I go to the import function, and the first thing it warns me is that the file that I'm going to import this information from, absolutely make sure that thing is closed. I want to import equipment checkout, hit the import button, and it says, oh, wait a second, you've already got equipment in this equipment checkout sheet. Do you want to save it or do you want to overwrite it? And I'll click OK to go ahead and replace everything that's here. And I'm going to go up here and pull some information in from the CURT Rice Ridge 8217. Go ahead and open that. It says open, but basically what you're telling CURT to do is go ahead at this point and initiate the import function. So don't forget to add any new import kits to the CommTech inventory sheet. Okay, got it. Exit that. Import complete. There we have it. So you can do that with most of these tabs. You can do it with the staff roster, the CommTech inventory, the 205s, and so on, the phone list. So that's it for the review of CURT 2018. Attaches my contact information here on the screen. Feel free to contact me with any thoughts, ideas, or comments. And thanks for watching. We'll see you out there.